Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Sex, Love, and Elephants. And I have a radical surprise for you that you did not know about. Today, I've got my first ever and the best I could possibly have had special guest on Sex, Love, and Elephants. We're going to get to that in one moment. But I want to remind you all what I said last week is the next 6 weeks from mid-September here till the end of October are the most exciting time in Sex, Love, and Elephants and in the Dr. Cheryl work, because these are the 6 weeks where I offer an elite group of you the chance to join my 10-week immersion couples program. You've heard about it, Become Passion. It kicks off right at the end of October. And I strongly encourage you, if you have any interest at all in learning more about that, to get on the wait list. It's a no obligation wait list. But those of you on the wait list, the links below where you're listening to this podcast, you're going to get invited to some special behind the scenes guest Q&As with me on Zoom, office hours with me where you and your sweetie can show up and get some coaching and help from me, regardless of whether you decide plunging into the 10-week program is a good idea. It's a good idea, but I leave that up to you. So thank you for that. But we're diverging this week, and I'm absolutely thrilled. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was invited out of the blue to teach for Tony Robbins at a very exclusive program he teaches every 24 months for couples. And it was an honor and a delight to go. And I went there, and because I'm a learner, I attended the whole thing and I checked out all the other speakers. I want to learn, I want to grow. And there was a woman there that changed the trajectory of my life in terms of how I embody myself as a woman and as a partner and as a lover. She's become a friend. We can't wait till they're up here after the writer's strike working, and she can come visit me on Vancouver Island. But Ms. Sheila Kelley is an actor, an activist. She created a program and a type of feminine movement practice under the umbrella of S Factor you're going to hear about today. I had the distinct honor of being her invited guest speaker down in Las Vegas about 3 months ago. And as Ani, the host, quipped, and I've stolen her line, but I never plagiarize, this is Ani's line, I can for the rest of my life say I stripped in Vegas. So that was a lot of fun. So today you're going to hear a bit about Sheila's journey from a movie to a life-changing business that has helped thousands of women, if not more. And you're also going to hear about joining Sheila. I'm in it. It started just a couple days ago, and you can still join her unbelievable 6-month journey. If you've ever heard of the Netflix documentary Strip and Rise, this is a journey based on that. We're going to talk about that today and give you an exclusive chance to join at the last minute and even save $100 because you're a friend of Cheryl. All right. So hello, my darling Sheila. How are you today?
Hi. Wow, what a beautiful introduction, Cheryl. You're so amazing. And again, I want to thank you for your incredible participation in my retreat in
Oh,
Vegas. You are charismatic beyond words. You're so gifted. You're so brilliant. You are the like yin to my yang, or the yang, you're the
mm,
whatever. You're the words to my movement. So yay. I'm so honored to be here.
it's so fantastic. Now, I'm going to assume a lot of my audience hasn't yet had the delight of learning anything about your work. So can we
Have they
start at
been
the
living under a
beginning?
rock? Oh,
Under
sorry.
a rock, they've been living under a rock, Sheila who. Maybe they're going to surprise
Teasing,
me,
teasing.
but I would love you to start at the beginning with a certain movie that you were involved
Yeah,
with and how that led to, is it fair to say, changing your life in radical
uh,
ways?
radical. Well, let me establish that I'm also an actor. And I've been in like TV shows like LA Law. I was on The Good Doctor with my husband. I've been in lots and lots of movies. Um, but before I was an actor, I was a dancer, a mover, someone I love embodiment. So I did a film called Dancing at the Blue Iguana many years ago where I played a stripper. And it was an improvisational film, meaning that it was a film that the director and the actors built from the ground up. And we spent
Mm.
6 months building this film. Each actor had to build their own character from themselves. So I had to learn how to be a woman who was comfortable with and lived through her erotic body. And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
how easy. Oh, of course, I'm sexy. I have a great sexual relationship with my husband, I thought.
Hmm.
Actually, the first day of rehearsal was the most humbling experience of my life.
Oh,
I
do
got up on
tell.
stage.
What happened?
Girl, talk about improvisation, right? You're an improvisational.
Mhm.
I had to get up on stage and improvise a character from myself.
Right.
And I was awkward. I was uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do. I tried to move my body like I was moving on the beat. I felt like a dork. I put on this
Mm.
stupid outfit that I thought was sexy, like a little pink
Mm.
fluffy skirt, pink fluffy shoes, little white off the shoulder sex top with a bra. I literally, my body was like screaming at me, get this stupid outfit off of me. So
So
that
could I
was the beginning. Yeah,
I want to ask a question about that because you
please
used your
do.
head to think of this is sexy.
Yeah,
You thought it was
yeah,
sexy. You
yeah.
believed you'd feel sexy in it. I think a
Yeah.
lot of women listening are like, that sounds pretty sexy, like a fluffy skirt, a
Right?
little, sexy top. So tell more about that experience
Like,
of,
mm, yeah, love, love, love that you caught that because the body is smarter, in my opinion. What I've learned over the many years of teaching this is that the body is the oracle. Your body is the oracle of your life. She's smarter than you are. She's terrestrial. She was built to live on this planet, and she knows how to do it better than you do. So when you have this idea, when you've seen pictures of sexy outfits and sexy women like Marilyn Monroe and Sofia Vergara, and you think,
Mhm.
oh, I'll just wear what they're wearing, I'll just do what they're doing, and I'll feel sexy. Well, no, because each body is intricately woven, and her sexuality, wherever level of access you have to it, her sexuality is unique to herself, unique
Mm.
to you. Like my sexuality, my erotic creatures, I call the body, is unique to me. So putting on an outfit that I think, I saw, an actress wear sometime in some movie that I thought, oh, well, that's sexy on her, it'll be sexy on me, made my
Right.
body go, you don't have a clue who I am. That's not sexy. That's not my kind of sexy. I mean,
And
it was
you
like,
had the wisdom to listen to that message instead of overriding it and keep being a plastic
girl,
sexy girl.
plastic sexy girl couldn't move.
Ah, say
That's the
more.
brilliance of the body. So I got up on stage with Daryl Hannah, Sandra
Mhm.
Oh, myself, the director's in the audience, and I'm up on stage in this stupid outfit, and my skin, I know, my skin was like crawling, my skin was like, oh, this, and my body was just contracting and shutting down. And then I was trying to move from my brain and trying to act, right? Trying to
Yeah.
act sexy. Well, no,
Oh, yeah,
you
that
got to
that that
just
never works.
doesn't work. It works
No.
sometimes, my husband would see something he thought was sexy on me that I didn't feel was sexy, but it didn't make me light up, didn't
Right.
turn me on. So I spent the next 6 months of that improvisational journey hunting for myself, trying on every kind of outfit, every kind of music, and learning the full expression of my body through movement, through stretching to the fullest extent my curves could stretch. Because
Mhm.
our bodies aren't built the way that our masculine counterparts are.
Right.
Even if we're of a gender that is not necessarily considered feminine, but you feel feminine, that makes a huge difference. To me, feminine and masculine is about how you feel inside. What you feel is
Mm.
your sexual essence, right? So for me, I identify as feminine, and I had no idea how to find her because she had been so shut down, and I had no idea how shut down my body had been. So after 6 months, we started to shoot the movie, and
Right.
I met this side of myself, this what I call my erotic creature, my erotic
Mhm.
body. And she's the one you'll see in the movie. It's called Dancing at the Blue Iguana, but it changed my life because my sexuality, my erotic body was not pink and fluffy. She liked dark
Mhm.
black vinyl. She liked chain link dresses. She likes darker things,
Mhm.
thigh high black boots. She liked harder music that's more insistent and more challenging and more fierce than the lighter stuff that I thought
Mhm.
was sexy.
That is
So that was,
so
mm,
beautiful and can
mm,
be very confusing to both men and female, men and women, gay and straight, trans,
Ah,
however you identify, whoever you love. I teach
yep.
a small piece in my program that I call dark sensual energy. And it's what you're talking about. It's the
Yeah.
side that we might be afraid to approach, that we may
Ah,
vilify. And of course, when it's repressed and cut off in the worst sense, it can lead to addiction, incorrect sexual
yeah.
behavior, compulsivity,
Yeah.
betrayals. But the
Yeah.
gorgeousness of the yin yang idea of the dark sensual energy being the balance. And we're not implying
Mm.
for anyone listening, because I think Sheila and I both are kind of leather, latex, dangerous creatures in one of our aspects of being erotic. But fluffy pink might absolutely be another woman's dark sensual energy.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
maybe you could expound on that a bit more. And by the way, everybody, Sheila has an incredible quiz we'll direct you to find out which
Mm.
of the 10 erotic creature icons you most resonate with. So we'll put that link below as well. But maybe you can give just a brief idea, because I think in North America, we're so okay. Sometimes I swear on my podcast, and I know Sheila doesn't mind. We're so fucking repressed in North America. We
Yeah.
think we're
Yeah.
sexually liberated because there's a lot of
Mm.
porn. I mean, what the hell? People are so shut down. They have such a
Yeah.
limited sexual repertoire. Then they fantasize about the quote unquote dirty stuff. God, I hate that word. The dark sensual energy stuff that they're afraid to tell their sweetheart and all those things. So, talk a little bit about erotic creatures or wherever you want to take this part of our conversation.
Oh, wow. You're kind of opening the floodgates of a lot of information that could come at you. The erotic body. Look, I study somatics. I've studied somatics all my life. I was a dance major, a somatic major, an anatomist at NYU. My mentor was Stanley Kellerman. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's the godfather, the grandfather of somatic studies up at
Mhm,
Berkeley. I love the body because the body never lies.
mhm,
The body never
mhm,
lies. And after over the many years of studying, I can tell so much more about you from your body behavior and carriage and posture than I can about what
mhm,
you say, because you're just
mhm,
this entity living in this body. So the erotic body and the body, your body, Cheryl, is shaped by nature and nurture, right?
mhm,
Muscularly, fascially, she's shaped in a certain emotional structure, right?
mhm.
You have a playful, almost naughty everyday essence. You kind of come at the world with like, woo, we're going to party, we're going to play, and I'm going to be a little naughty about it. I'm going to provoke you.
Mhm,
And that's your everyday essence because I can see it in your
mhm,
body. I can see it in your facial structure. I can see it in the tone of your voice. In your erotic, you go to a different place, right? You go
yeah.
to a fierce, fiery challenger way. You go to a deep,
Mhm.
dark, yummy, delicious, dark chocolate place,
Yeah.
but you don't you and they're different from your everyday essence. So but the shape of your body, most of us know our everyday essence, whether we're like, I have a lot of innocence in my everyday. I have a lot of
Mhm,
open-eyed, open-bodied, up energy, but my dangerous challenger, my dark sexual nature is
mhm,
again very similar to yours. She's challenging, she's got fire, a little bit of pissed offness. She likes to be
mhm.
pushed and she likes to push back at her sexual partner. I didn't know any of that. I had no
Right.
idea I had that desire in me until I did this journey, which became S Factor.
Mhm,
Until I took this journey of
mhm.
discovering myself in that film, I had no idea I like to give a little kind of wrestling match during lovemaking. I like to push
Right.
at him, and that took our relationship, which I thought was like, it's okay, it's a good
Yep.
marriage, to like, holy fudgesicle. I can't get over how much I love this man. And we are 34 years together. We're like teenagers in love and in lust. And it's because of this very journey. It's because I went over here to discover me. And he's
Yourself
over
as
here
an
to
erotic being, as a
as
sensual
an
being, and to open up
yes.
parts of yourself that you maybe didn't access or
Yeah.
didn't know were there.
No, it turned my body on. And you can't do it up here. You
Right.
can't think. You
No.
can't. I tried to think my way there and my body like
Yeah.
revolted.
Right.
So I took
Right.
this journey of embodiment, which said, oh, wow, I really like it when there's fire in music. Ooh, I like it when I have
Mhm.
tight, restrictive vinyl on. I'm
Mm.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm saying because it's turning me on. It's the restrictive vinyl. Keep going. I'm just having a
It's
moment.
no, it's so good. It's so good, but who knew? And and so as I began teaching, I began to notice, and I went on the Oprah show. I talked about the erotic creature. So the erotic creature is the through line of everything I've taught. People think I've introduced,
Mhm.
and I did pole dance fitness to the world in, you know, 2003 on Oprah, and it did, but it's deeper than just, dancing on a pole, which I love. And I don't know if you can see my pole behind me, but
Can.
uh, it's much deeper than that. It's really, who am I? Who am I in this body? Who's this body I'm in? And that to me is like, it's like a Sherlock Holmes deep quest of like adventure and excitement. So as I noticed all the women I taught, because they came to me because they saw the change in me, they also identified their own unique erotic body. And it's usually was very different than who they were in their everyday. There was a sassy one that, she was like really, really docile and sweet and proper in everyday, but you came into the studio and she would get very sassy and icy and bitchy, and it was so sexy, right? And then I saw that there were women who were very kind of stern and almost, perfunctory and tight in their everyday. And they would come in, and Cheryl, they would have this innocence and this joy and this lightness in their sexuality that was so different than their everyday. It's almost like this erotic body really does balance out, to your point, to what you teach about the dark sensual. It really balances out the wholeness of being. Because, go ahead, I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to wait. I just want to underline a couple of these concepts for everybody because we're covering such rich, important stuff. I don't want to lose any of it. So everybody listening knows my work, and I'm pretty darn good at what I do in terms of couples therapy, sex therapy, working with the mind of desire, working with your blocks with fantasy. I cannot emphasize enough to everybody listening how vitally important it is if you want a rich erotic life for yourself, if you're unpartnered, if you're choosing celibacy for any reasons. You may choose a solo sexual life. Yes, I mean masturbation and self-pleasure, or you may be partnered wherever or whatever. I cannot emphasize enough that the embodiment part that
Hmm.
is not appropriate for a sex therapist to teach in that venue is critical. And that's why everything Sheila is saying, I want you all to think, well, I've been to sex therapy and it really kind of helped. It helped me get over some trauma. It helped me realize, due to religious or cultural reasons, I had some shutdowns and it was hard for me to have an orgasm. That's incredibly important work. But if you
Mm-hmm.
want to open up and light up your sensual energy, your joy, your femininity, and yes, Sheila absolutely can work with men as well, but we're mainly focusing on
Mm-hmm.
women right now. I cannot emphasize enough how important Sheila's work is. And you should also consider joining, if this lights you up at all, consider joining her program we'll be talking a little bit more about. So I
Oh,
just want to emphasize all that
thank
before we
you.
keep going, because we can talk
Yeah.
for 6 hours. So
Seriously, I mean,
we were at your journey, and then you started teaching women and
yes.
noticing how their essence was often a surprise to them, as it was to you.
Yes. Yes, so incredible, Cheryl. And it gave in doing that, in doing so, in embracing this side of myself, when I don't know what you might want to call it, the shadow side or the dark, sensual, whatever we want to call this. I call her the erotic creature.
Let's call it the
Embracing this,
erotic creature.
okay, embracing my erotic creature. It was like I literally went from living like on my hands are like 2 inches apart, from living in this space to living in, now my arms are all the way apart, this space. My life expanded in ways I can't even begin to verbalize, because I got access to other parts of myself that I had shut down or had been shut down by society. Right. And so it's a sense of like, oh my God, all this time. I was 34 when I did this film. all this time from till I was 34, I thought something was missing and I needed to find it outside of myself. I needed to find a
Right.
man, a child, a career, something out there would fill me up, and nothing did. And what I was really missing was myself. I was missing my erotic creature. I was missing the fullness of myself because it had been,
Beautiful.
yeah, it had been off limits because good girls don't do that. Good girls aren't
Right.
like that. Good girls don't have fire and lust and meh. And
Hmm.
it was really revelatory for me, and I saw that it was revelatory to every woman. And as I taught, I noticed that there were 10 consistent iconic body shapes that showed themselves through women's bodies. And I realized that
Hmm.
they were the 10 iconic body emotions that had shaped their bodies through sexuality, right?
Hmm.
So I call those the erotic creatures. There's the 10 light erotic creatures and there's the 10 dark erotic creatures. Now, we all should have access to all 10 of those all the time moving through us. But because of certain life situations, because of certain ancestral body, long body conditions, we have kind of closed ourselves down into maybe three or four. We experience three or four of those 10 beautiful body emotions, and we disallow
Yeah.
the others. We disallow fear.
Right.
We disallow
Right.
sadness. We disallow anger. We disallow disgust.
Mhm.
So we cut ourselves off and we live in only, a portion of ourselves.
And I would put forward, Sheila, when it comes to the erotic self, even
Hmm.
saying people might have 3 or 4 accessible, I don't even
Oh,
think
then
that's the
yes,
case for a lot of people. They might have 1 or none really
agreed.
accessible. So it's the
Agreed.
breadth of your 10 different energies that I
Agreed.
really, really adore, because I think, other people might help people embody one sexy side of themselves, but you
Right.
introduce your audiences to the breadth and the depth of the possibilities of all the different ways to be erotic, whether that's eating a piece of chocolate alone while you watch the sunset,
Yeah.
or whether it's, I'm going to be a little blue language here, everybody, whether it's fucking the brains out of the ones that you love, or
Yes.
whether it's having the most tender, soulful, love-making experience where you're both weeping because of the emotional openness and the
Mm-mm.
spiritual
Mm-mm.
connection and the
Mm.
ability to move between ways of relating.
Yes, 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 exactly. And thank you for bringing that up because when I said people have usually access to three or four, I meant in their everyday life, not even in their
Right.
erotic. In their erotics, I cannot tell you, I've been teaching for 24 years now, tens of thousands of women. And I cannot tell you the amount of women who have had extraordinary life altering, explosive growth and revelation in like,
Yep.
oh my God, I had no idea that I had all of these colors inside in my
Yes.
everyday and in my erotic. And it's like the more you cultivate, the more you embody, the more you move the muscle of all of these 10 emotional erotic energies, the more expansive you become and the more sexual you become, the more lusty you become, the more desirous
Mhm.
of touch, of love, of fucking you become.
Mhm.
It's really
Mhm.
quite like a rebirth, I would say, for
I
me.
think that's a really good experience, and I wanna share with the listeners that, when I had the pleasure to join in your, almost 4-day immersion in Vegas in May and teach a small, aspect of it to your ladies, but I participated, and I had the best time, and I'm fairly free-ish of mental sexual blocks. I have a pretty good attitude around sexuality, etcetera. But to cut to the chase, I was so effing horny and it was so effing fun. I mean, to be in the body, I've always loved to dance. I don't stand still in a line. I'm always swaying my hips, but I've been almost completely cut off from dancer movement through COVID and everything else. And I've been ignoring this aspect of the organicness of who I am. And it was so hot and so arousing. And I had to leave quite early in the morning, as one does when you're traveling, to go to the airport the day after. And I'm walking through the airport and my hips
Mm,
are swaying
mm,
and my
mm.
bum is moving. And I'm not doing that. The
No,
body's just more open and
yep,
released and alive and juicy, to use a word you and your beautiful teachers use. And
yes.
people listening know that, I don't chase every passing fad. It's not my jam. I'm old enough, for God's sakes, been there, done that. But the
Uh-huh.
enthusiasm I have for the work you do and what it does for women and
Mm.
those they love, that's why you're here. That's why we're bringing it. And again, people, you really want to think about joining the current program that just kicked off.
Mm.
It's a 6-month journey. We're going to tell you more about it in a bit, but I'm teasing it out. I'm in the program, babies, everybody listening.
Woo!
Some of the women in my Become Passion program who've done the couples work with me have joined with me into Sheila's program to augment their growth and also to augment their sexual relationship, which brings me to a tricky question you and I have talked about. Often you work with women who
Yep.
they find some of their fire. They find their erotic essence. They come out with such joy and they may go home. We're going to use a hetero cis normal example at first, but of course it applies to every gender and every pairing, including polyamory. But for the moment, they go
Mm-hmm.
home perhaps to their heterosexual male cisgendered partner. And I've seen this through my whole career as a sex therapist and a couples therapist. Every man, on the construction site says he'd love a horny woman who's lusty and wants to do kinky shit. And then he gets one, and it can be very overwhelming for the masculine.
Yeah.
It can be very confusing. And then that beautiful lit up woman who leaves strip and rise class or leaves Vegas gets home and can feel rejected or shut down. And I hear a lot from the men's side. We won't take a deep dive
Mm.
into that right now, about how overwhelmed they feel, how confused they feel because perhaps the very partner who's rejected them for a long time, etc. We're probably not going to unpack that one, maybe on another episode. But as an inspiration to people, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how your dear man reacted when his lovely actress wife went to do this really cool improv movie, and then some stuff happened and he had a different wife.
He
He clearly
did.
was
He
man
did.
enough,
He
but
did. He did have a different wife, and he that's such a great listen. I've heard a lot of what you're saying. Yes,
yeah.
we're changing the paradigm of the planet, of a
Oh, yeah.
masculine patriarchal planet. So when the feminine steps into her body and reclaims all the pieces that society says shut down, keep it
Yeah.
quiet, it's going to change everything. It's going to change the
Yeah.
concept of everything. So what I teach are the 5 feminine geniuses: curve of
Mm.
movement, sensuality, emotability. That's the first 3 things I teach, and you're going to have
Mm.
that. You, Cheryl, and your beautiful
Mhm.
clients are going to go through this with me, starting with Strip and Rise, the class. The next
Mhm.
thing, connection, interdependence, and intuition. This comes when when we're feeling fullness, when we've unleashed and
Mm.
unlocked parts of ourselves that have been quieted. How do we bring that into connection? And that's very
Mhm.
animal. I teach very animal
Mhm.
connection, nonverbal connection. I teach lovers how to connect from a place of primal desire, lust, and fire, and warmth, and love, and softness. How to connect on that level with no words, with just body, with just breath, with just gaze. Like, I tell people to shut the F up all the time
Yes.
when I'm working. I say, stop talking and just,
Yep.
what does your body want to do? You
Stay
want to
out of
push him?
concepts, stay out of the
Yes.
ideas, stay out of the nervousness. One of the women who had a
Yeah.
breakthrough in Vegas with you was chatting to me before she went home. She had a newer relationship. I'm going to go home and I'm going to give him the greatest strip dance of all time. And then she said, so I think I'll come home. And I said, can I give you some advice? And she said, sure. I said, don't say anything. Tell him I'll
Don't
be
say
home at
anything.
8, be in the living room, lights low. We're not going
Yeah.
to talk. She's like, really? Because she was going to go, hi, honey. I had a great time. How are you? Did the fridge get
Yeah.
fixed? And
Look what
then
I
move into
learned.
erotic play?
No.
Instead, it's just like, shh. If he's like, hey, baby, home, it's like, shh. So thank you for saying that. And everybody listen, 2 very smart
So
ladies are
you've
giving you
got
very
to
good advice.
You've got to get to the animal, and that is what I do. I teach you freedom. I teach you freedom
Mm-hmm.
to go back to the primal body, that body that can smell him, her, can taste, can feel, can
Mm-hmm.
desire, turns the your cells of your body are so turned on and titillated that you're just aching for touch and love and connection. So words get in the way, it's ideas. And you're right, it's nervousness sometimes. I say to
Mm-hmm.
women that are super nervous to even do what you said, I say to them, uh, text your lover I'll be home. I have an assignment from Sheila. I have to do some homework. Can I use you for my homework? Will you sit in the chair? And that's it. And that takes
Great.
the onus of performance away, because it's not performance. It's about showing
Right.
your lover yourself in pleasure, yourself
Mm.
in the full feminine expression. But you asked a question about my
Mhm.
husband.
Yes.
Well, it was a very multi-tiered experience because I exploded into myself. I
Mhm.
exploded over the 6 months of learning. 1 month I would learn about this kind of energy I loved, and these kinds of clothes, and those kinds of shoes. And I would learn a different pole trick, or I would learn something, and I would bring it home, not like literally, I wouldn't literally bring those clothes home, but the essence of what I was feeling and
Mhm.
unlocking was rippling through every part of my life, to the point where he was, fascinated, but a little like, what's happening here? So I said to
Sure.
him, and before we shot the film, I went to a strip club incognito, and I signed up to dance, and I got on stage and danced at the strip club. Dollars were
Mm.
thrown. I picked it up. I lived the life of a professional stripper for that evening. And Richard
Mhm.
showed up there. I said, show up there because I'll need
Mm.
your support. And then he hired me for a lap dance.
Ooh,
Girl,
nice. That is
I
so
was
sexy and
it was
romantic.
it was so hot, so I took him to the back and I gave him, like, the lap dance of his life, and then he hired me to go home with him, but I said, "I don't do that." But anyway, we did go home and we had the most I think we conceived our daughter that night, but it was sexy, and it was playful, it was fun, and it was titillating, and, I really honor and respect the women who make their living, and I love the women who make
Mhm.
their livings
Mhm.
as professional strippers. They have changed my
Mhm.
life. They took me under their wing and taught me everything I know. And so it was really scary to actually go to a professional strip club and sign up
Of
and get on
course.
stage. I really, whew, but it changed things. It really allowed him some time to conceive of re re-perceiving me. Cheryl, does that make
Right.
sense? Like, allowing
Yes.
me to not just be the mother of his son and the woman he married, but to be this wildly free, erotic
Mhm.
being who was separate from him, and yet to get like it was just, I don't even know if I can put words to it. It gave him, I saw his processing Sheila as this particular way of being, to Sheila with this particular way of being, much, much wider uh, breadth of who I
Right.
was. And
Right.
then and that allowed for us both to grow together. And it allowed him to be humbled by my growth and not
Mhm.
threatened by it.
Mhm.
And when I teach the masculine, I teach about A, B, C, and D men, how men react to when women evolve and grow. And they react
Mhm.
by being an A, B, or a C, or a D man. And he went from being a B man to being an A man in that moment. And a B man is more of like a boy man, kind of young, hip, cool guy who doesn't really want to
Right.
take responsibility for life. And he stepped into this place of what I call the altar man. An altar man is a masculine at whose altar I worship, because they're not threatened by the most powerful feminine. They actually
Mhm.
understand that when their love, their feminine partner, becomes bigger and grander and fuller in her expression, it
Mhm.
is the pathway for him to also become bigger and grander and more passionate and virile in his own masculine journey, because he needs
Mhm.
to grow to a space where he can get as big as his lover so he can protect and provide for that creature that he's with.
Which is so beautiful. And I want to acknowledge there's probably people listening thinking, I'll never get that out of my partner. And I want to give you hope. Growth is always possible. And Sheila has also shared publicly, and we might not
Yeah.
have time to get into it a lot today, but you also had lots of challenges in your marriage and you thought of leaving, and it wasn't all, sunshine and roses. It's the work of long-term
Mm,
love to say, can we grow into these new people? And at times we might be very frightened, very threatened, very etc. That's pretty human if we're afraid things are going to change, and maybe that will change you away from me. But when a couple are invested in saying, can we white knuckle our way through the scary parts of change and see who we can come out the other side, as you've so beautifully put, that's
mm,
where extraordinary, unusual,
mhm.
lifelong love can be cultivated.
I love what you're saying, Cheryl, and if I may, I will. I will. I'm very, very open. I left
Mhm.
him so many times. I left him when I was 8 months pregnant with our son. We weren't married yet. I left him when our baby was 3 months old. We could not get along. We were like this all the time. It was tempestuous. It was unpleasant. It was lonely. I was lonelier with him at that stage in our marriage than I was when I was alone. It was a
Right.
heartbreaking love, a heartbreaking love.
Mhm.
I don't know if that resonates with you, but it resonates
Oh,
deeply
absolutely.
because I
Yeah,
was
I
in love
often
with
say
him.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, I've traveled a similar path with my man, my Richard. And it is horribly heartbreaking. It's not like other relationships where you love them and it's not working and you can conceptualize letting it go. These are the ones where it's wildly dysfunctional, push pull,
Yeah.
ambivalence, and the true
Yeah.
meaning of the actual
Yeah.
psychological meaning of the word ambivalence. In
Yeah.
English, we think ambivalence mean I don't really care. What ambivalence actually means psychologically, it's a push and a pull. It's a
Yeah.
want and a don't want, and it's
Ooh,
dynamic
ooh.
and it's tough and ow. It's an owie. It's
Owie,
very,
heartbreaking.
very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, because you may be in love, or you may even, want, but, thank God we listened to our bodies because my body loved his body and vice versa. But up here, this is what we couldn't, there's just so many issues. And that was for 10 years. Okay. That was 10
Right.
years of tempestuous
Right.
push pull love until I can remember it, this moment where I did the strip tease for him, and we went home, and all of a sudden I could see that he was processing and perceiving and expanding his vision of who I was. But
Right.
the key is I gave him time to do that.
You didn't go
I
to
re-
Vegas for 4 days and come home and expect your partner to be all over this brand new
yeah,
scary
yeah.
thing that has happened.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you've got to introduce this new side of yourself the way you would introduce a stranger at times,
Mhm.
piece by piece, moment by moment. And you'll see if you take Strip and Rise with me, my 6-month course that emulates the documentary Strip Down, Rise Up.
Mhm.
If you take that course with me, you'll see how it unfolds because your growth will be iterative, right? You'll grow each week a little bit more so that your partner, if you're with a partner, will have a more gentle way of expanding their vision of you as opposed to um,
Mhm.
all of a sudden, boom, you're a new and different woman. But I
Right.
think that was a really, really revelatory moment for me and Richard where things switched. And all of a sudden, I I got out of the masculine of my own masculine because I was living in my
Right.
own masculine and I was in the
Right.
masculine playing field in my acting career and competitive and that was once I found S Factor, I found a whole other world that I inhabited that he didn't inhabit. And so I could look back at where I had been and I could really say, he's a really beautiful man.
Mhm.
He's really masculine. I like how masculine he is. I like how much he wants to play baseball, softball. And so I started to look at the creature he was that I was not and really
Beautiful.
admire this beautiful creature and want him to be bigger and stronger and more of himself. Whereas before I had been competitive, like, don't get any bigger,
Right.
don't get strong. And it was this natty, stupid behavior that we both were stuck in, a trap.
Yeah, absolutely. I've generally had bigger balls than any of the heterosexual men I've dated, and it's very destructive. And it's also to do
Very.
with trust. Can you trust them to hold a big enough space that you can become feminine and vulnerable? And this is for another big podcast, but absolutely beautiful. And thank you for sharing some of that story, because you
Yeah.
no doubt come across this a lot as well, is that people look at someone like yourself with all the work you've done, and they might look at someone like me with all the work I've done, and they think I could, it's easy for them. They had all the knowledge, they have all the skill. I can't get there. And for us to share, as I do, one of the things the couples in my immersion program I'll be offering again this fall appreciate the most is I talk about all the ways I'm screwing up too. And
Yeah.
like that this week, I completely blew everything I'm teaching you guys. I got really critical. I got very picky. I was very unkind. And they're like, oh my goodness, she's a person. I can
Yeah.
relate to these people, the Sheilas, the Cheryls that say, it may look really
Yeah.
rosy, and maybe it's fairly rosy now, but there's decades of personal and interrelational work. So everybody listening that feels hopeless, this of course doesn't count if you're in an abusive, dysfunctional relationship. That's a good time to leave. But if you're in a regular dysfunctional relationship, like Sheila's marriage back then, like mine at times, where you know there's enough of something that you don't want to walk away, but you're pretty bloody miserable or worse, take heart with the type of
Yeah.
work I do, the type of work Sheila does. If you're willing to commit, because God damn it, relationships aren't an accident. Great relationships are not an accident. If you're
God, they're
willing to
really
invest
not.
your time and your soul and
Mm.
fall down and dust yourself off and get up again, it is humbling and profound and
Mm.
moving what
Mm.
two people can create. And I
Mm.
just wish it wasn't so rare. I'm attempting, as are you, to make it less rare, to make
Mm.
pathways possible for people to have steps to move from where they are to where they want to be. Which brings me to, you mentioned Strip and Rise. Let's talk a little bit more about Strip and Rise, because people, as you're listening here, fall 2023, you lucky duckies, Sheila has just kicked off. By the time you
Yeah.
hear this, we will have had our first class together. And as mentioned, I'm taking the program with, I wouldn't be anywhere else. I want to keep expanding what I've tasted. Some of the women I work with in my couples programs are joining me. You can join us, even if it's started 1 week ago. Sheila and her team have the doors open till the 25th of September to join Strip and Rise. Give the quick, beautiful version of, we've talked a bit about what is this program? What happens if I join today? And you can get $100 off by using the Friends of Cheryl code. How great is that? Thank you, Sheila's team.
Woo!
I know. If I join and I show up next Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Zoom thinking, what the hell have I done? Because I heard something on a podcast, give a little glimpse
Mm.
of what everybody will be exposed to.
I I will do that. I have to just I love you so much, and I love your mind, and I love what you just said before about you're so empathetic, and you're so compassionate, and you're so kind, and the way that you just said, giving people hope. And I really was moved by that,
Yes.
because
Thank you,
I'll tell you what,
sweetheart.
yeah, I was so miserable, and I thought I was in an abusive marriage because he was
Mhm,
neglecting me, but it was
mhm,
me who was neglecting me. So I just wanted to say that because
mhm.
it really harkened back to that. Strip Down,
Thank
Rise Up
you.
is, oh, yeah, you're welcome. Strip Down, Rise Up is a documentary about my work. It's on Netflix. That'll give you a sense and an essence of what embodiment of the feminine feels like and looks like. Um, the the 6 months I'm teaching is called Strip and Rise, and it's based off of I took a group of women in the documentary. I took them for 6 months, and I took them into beginning into the intermediate levels of feminine embodiment, feminine life
Mhm.
change, and uh, if you watch the film, you'll see the evolution. But if you don't want to watch the film and just jump into the course, it's about becoming whole while
Mm.
becoming free. It's reclaiming your wild. It's reclaiming your primal feminine essence for yourself, number one.
Mhm.
And when you
Mhm.
reclaim it for yourself, oh my God, like your whole world will explode in brightness. You'll feel everything. You will feel everything, because we're going to unlock all that gorgeous. The third genius of the feminine is emotability. We are
Mhm.
built to be emotional creatures. We are built to move emotion through our bodies as art. We are built to teach humanity how to feel everything: joy,
Mhm.
sadness, curiosity, love, lust, all of these things that get kind of tightened and trapped inside. We're going to free it all. We're going to free it all. And we do it through journaling, we do it through self reflection, and we do it through primarily embodiment and movement because your body is capable of so much more than you allow her to have. And I'm going to say that with such assuredness because I've been teaching this for 24 years and I have watched women all over the world and I've watched women evolve and open and spread wide open into these radiant, glorious beings that we were meant to be because the
Mhm.
feminine is life force. The feminine is the force of
Mhm.
life on the planet. We give life, we build life, we are life,
Mhm.
and we are light, and we
Yeah.
should be shining bright. And you can only shine bright when your body is free, when you're able to move to the fullest expanse. I'm reaching my arms up because I'm trying to give you a
Mhm.
sense of how much more you are capable of in moving through
Yeah.
sensuality, curve of movement, and immutability. So it's really that process for the first 12 weeks. And the last 10 weeks, we're going to actually let you embody each of the 10 erotic creature iconic energies so that you can tickle
Mhm.
them awake in your own body and you can feel the
Mhm.
expansion greater and greater each week until the last week where we set you off into your life as this fully embodied, bright, shining creature.
Who's a changed woman. And thank you. And
Yeah.
we're so excited. We didn't really even mention people. It's a weekly, except for some weeks off for the
Oh, yeah.
holidays, every Saturday live on Zoom with Sheila and some of her key teachers who I had the pleasure to meet in Las Vegas and who are unbelievably skilled women.
Yeah.
This isn't just a, in your head thing. It's not just a learn a dance move thing. It's hard to describe, but you'll
It
show up
really is.
ideally with a curious mind and an open heart, and you can have your skepticism. That's actually wisdom. Skepticism in the beginning of a new experience with someone you haven't worked with is wisdom. Cautious skepticism and openness, and erotically, sensually, emotionally. What I saw you do with some of the women, I just want to share this. In Las Vegas, there were some women there, Sheila, who've trained with you for a decade or more, and when they were doing their small group dances on the last day, you would stop some of them because you would see something that wasn't quite authentic enough or that they were shying back and you knew them well enough. You
Hmm.
also would do it with some beginners, but particularly people where you knew them as you get to know people on this 6-month journey of the Strip and Rise course is you saw, let's say it was me, and I was shirking back. Maybe there was an aspect, maybe of a playful part of myself I shirked back from because I thought it was weak. Or maybe there was a dark, leather clad bitch I was shirking back from. And you would very gently stop them and ask them to redo it. You would invite them to go further, to hold that block gently and allow it to melt or partly melt. And that's where, as a psychotherapist and the deep work I do on the other side, I saw that's unbelievable skill is what you saw, and the way you can invite her to, with sometimes some pushing and encouragement, as we do in psychotherapy. When a patient's ready, we might push a little. When they're not ready, we'll hold them gently right where they're at for a while. But when I saw you do that, I saw the secret special part of what you do, which is that ability to have her feel enough courage through you to open to a place she might never open, even when she's quite far along in the journey. Does that make sense?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I call that body whispering. And it's
Mm.
something I've done all my life because I spoke body before I spoke words. And my mother said I was a late speaker, but I was very animal as a child. And so it's something I'm very comfortable with, almost more
Yeah.
comfortable with that than I am with words. Because
Yeah.
I believe the body never lies, but I believe the body has been trained. All of our bodies have been trained to be smaller than
Mhm.
we are. And so when I see
Mhm.
a body that is just ripe, ready, so ready to break through the boundary of a certain movement or a certain
Mhm.
expression, I will body whisper her and nourish her and
Mhm.
nudge her to that freedom, which is usually pretty
Mhm.
amazing to witness, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
and to get out of the conceptual head. The conceptual head's
yeah.
very important. A lot of the work I do is in the conceptual realm, and it's very important. But you
Mm,
cannot think yourself into freedom. You
mm-mm.
can understand the idea, you can desire it, and that's a good desire because it's motivation to essentially get
Yeah.
it's very meditative. A lot of my listeners know I'm a hardcore Buddhist practitioner and teacher. It's about really melting away all the concepts so that there's simply the experience of body, of energy, of flow, of emotion with very little words, or any words that are present are kind of in the background, like a distant radio playing across the street. You don't have to pay attention to them and come
Mm.
back to the direct experience. And that's where I would say, I don't think it's hyperbole, transformation can occur,
Oof.
you know?
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Take
That's
the
really
brakes
beautiful.
off. The brakes
Take
our head puts in. This podcast is called Sex, Love, and Elephants. People think it's just a cute title. And we spoke about elephants when we first reconnected because they're one of your spirit animals, I understand.
Yeah.
But the way I use elephants in this podcast is that's the non-conceptual, deep knowing you. That's the elephant. It already knows. It could be the body for our conversation today, the body wisdom beyond the I should, I shouldn't, or am I good at this, or gee, a pink fluffy skirt's sexy, but I don't feel sexy. All of that's monkey concept, planning.
Yeah.
Those things are helpful. The monkey got us to our podcast appointment on time. Executive functioning is helpful, but the
Yep.
freedom and the liberation and the awakening is in the non-conceptual.
That's
Trusting
right.
that part. Yeah.
That's right. The almost I would call
Yeah.
it. Oh, sorry. I would
That's
almost
okay.
call it it's in the expressive, right?
Yes.
And like the dance of the two, the expressive and the conceptual are really powerful together. Understanding
Mm-hmm.
cognitively
Mm-hmm.
what I just went through is really important as well
Mm-hmm.
as going through it. But the experience of freedom has to literally be experienced,
Right. Right.
right?
And then journaled after the fact, not being
Yes.
narrated during it. It's like acting, it's like improv.
Yeah.
God, you're improvising in front of a huge thing and someone throws a crazy suggestion at you. Suddenly you're a tree. If you think how to be a good tree, as you know, as they would corpse on stage, it's all over. It's a shitty scene.
It's
We just have
over.
to not think and become tree in an embodied way. And then maybe it's a tree who's taking their kid to the first day of kindergarten and you got to just go with that, etc. And that's where great art happens
Yes,
as
and
well.
freedom of
Yeah.
expression,
And
becoming whole.
genius.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. If there's
Yeah.
one thing
Well,
if there's one thing I can say, Cheryl, because it's that's intimately important to me, is
mm,
that I don't want to go through to the end of my life. I don't want to be on my last day regretful that I did not live completely and fully expressed
mhm,
in this body with no stone unturned. I want full access to myself in this lifetime on this planet, and that is what drives me with S Factor, is helping women get the
mhm.
same thing I've gotten and continue to get from this practice.
Beautiful. So I'm just going to summarize for people where to join your program. And then I'm going to ask you one final question before we
Mhm.
bring things to a
Yeah.
close. So everybody, the incomparable Sheila Kelley, the program is Strip and Rise. That's the beautiful program. 6 months. It just started, but you can get in. The doors open for one more week. It's okay. You can watch the recording of the first lesson that by the time you're listening to
Yeah.
this, I would have attended because it's tomorrow morning as we record. I'm so excited. I bought my sheepskin rug. I'm all ready to go. It was
Woo!
faux. It was faux sheepskin. I'm an animal lover, but there you go. So click below, or if you have any trouble, if your podcast thing isn't clickable, no problem. Go to sfactor.com
Mhm.
and there you can find the link. And when there's a place to put a discount code in, you can simply type the phrase Friends of Cheryl with no spaces, Friends of Cheryl. You get $100 off because it's a
Yep.
gorgeous gift that Sheila's team is giving to all of you. And I hope to see many of you inside the program. You can also at the sfactor.com website, you can take the Erotic Creatures questionnaire for free or quiz and get
Yeah.
a quick blush on maybe what your current erotic creature might be and continue looking elsewhere at some of the beautiful work that Sheila does. But I hope many of you will join the program, follow her work, watch the documentary and more. And all of you who are coupled and would like to be more like Sheila and her Richard, both sexually and emotionally, maybe at my best like me and my Richard. Don't forget that October 27th, we kick off the 10-week immersion couples program. This is a great month to listen because I'll be doing a lot of free classes, Q&As, a lot more access to me for this month of the year. And some of you, it's a limit to 100 people, will join me for that incredible 3-month life-changing couples program. If I wanted to have the best fall ever, people, I would join Strip and Rise, and I would join my program, and I would grow as a woman in my body, in my expression, and get the tools and techniques of couples therapy so I could work with that with my sweetie. And I'll tell you what, any of you that are in Strip and Rise and also join my Become Passion program, I'll do an extra class for your men to help them feel more comfortable with the changes you're going through. So you can take my word for that. So Sheila, what a joy. If you were in Vancouver right now, occasionally Sheila's work bring her to the wonderful film and TV city of Vancouver near me. I'd pop over for a glass of kombucha, but it will happen one day. And I have
Yes,
a
it will.
final question for you.
Okay.
You've partly answered this, but to kind of bring it back round. As you reflect on the last couple of decades since that incredible opportunity in Dancing with the Blue Iguana that led you to all this, how would you say the feminine movement practice has changed you as a woman, as a wife, and as a leader?
How has it changed me is such a big question, Cheryl. I'm at peace with who I am. I'm at peace with my lust and my desire. I'm at peace with how I function as a businesswoman. I balance between masculine and feminine energy much more fluidly than I ever did before. It used to be just masculine, masculine, masculine. And look at I'm tense, I'm tight, I'm contracted, but I don't do that
Right.
anymore. I dance between masculine and feminine. I am much more focused on flow and ease, not forcing, not pushing in relationship with my love, in relationship to business. I have super strong boundaries, and that's something I teach in Strip and Rise is the 3 levels of boundaries from the body's point of view. It's changed me as a mother. I'm so patient. I have when you have super, super tight, soft flowing boundaries, meaning that they're very strong boundaries and yet you can still flow within them. Nothing gets my hair on end. Nothing throws me into a tizzy of controlling things anymore. I'm in the river and the flow of life. That's what S Factor has given me profoundly.
Well, I thank you for creating S Factor and bringing it to the world and sharing it for as long as you draw breath, which I hope is for many, many, many decades. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm just going to end the recording with our LoveByte. Every episode of Sex, Love, and Elephants, we end with a LoveByte. And today's LoveByte is the body's wisdom is whispering to you. It's time to listen, to allow the sensual side of your passion triangle to be unfolded. So thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you for listening, everybody. Join me next week for the next episode where we'll continue with all the exciting stuff leading up to launching the course and joining at least 100 of you for that amazing journey. Love to all. Bye for now.